Hello, everyone. A very good evening to all of you. Can you let me know if I'm audible? Can you let me know if I'm visible? Hello, hello. Yes, yes. Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. And I want to wish all of you a very, very good evening once again. What a beautiful day to start off our weekend. No, a beautiful way to start our weekend on a Friday evening to get to know something we don't, right? It's a beautiful way to start. And because every new beginning is something we need to cherish. And today, I believe all of us are here for a new beginning. And I want to welcome each and every one of you to another wonderful OdinTalk. And it's not just wonderful, it's going to be even more than that because we have an honorable speaker here. And I have so much to say about him than just words. Okay, he's just going to be so many things we're going to discuss in the next 1 hour, and we're going to focus more about salary negotiation today. I'm pretty sure most of us here are very curious to know many things on that, and we have the right person and the best of all for that. With all honor, from OdinSchool's behalf, I would like to welcome Mr. Teja Gudluru. He has so many things to put behind his name. I'm going to mention a few, and then I will give over the session to him so that he can tell more about himself. Mr. Teja Gudluru is a leadership development consultant. He's a TEDx speaker. He's an entrepreneur. He is a management consultant, an author, and whatnot. I guess I can stack more and more and more. And to let you guys know more about the speaker today, I would like to welcome the speaker himself, Mr. Teja Gudluru. With all our honor, I would like to hand over the session back to you. Yes, please take over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gaffer. I thought this was going to be in a podcast format where you'll probably ask me questions. You're putting me on the spot and you're pushing them on 185 people right now. But welcome everyone. Good evening. Sorry, Gaffer, go ahead.
I said you can tell about yourself and then we'll slowly go into the questions. I guess that's something everybody would want to know about you before the questions.
Super. By the way, this is a good avatar I'm seeing of you. When I met you in Bangalore, I couldn't imagine you being such a wonderful speaker. So I'm pleasantly surprised myself. But good evening, everyone. My name is Teja Gudluru. Gaffer has already told you that. Just put in some buzzwords in there. I'm a simple guy, come from a lower middle class background from Hyderabad. Of course, over the last 22 years, I've spent some time, some achievements. Currently, I am, like Gaffer mentioned, a leadership development consultant. I'm also a visiting faculty at IIM Udaipur, where I'm working with the IIM graduates on their placements and how they can do better in their interviews and stuff like that. So that's my role with them currently. And yeah, I love doing what I do. I love talking to young professionals like all of you and share some free gyan, some important gyan, and most probably, if you apply some of this, it can turn into something that can be life transforming for all of you. So back to you, Gaffer. Excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Teja. So I believe each and every one of here are going to get some wonderful information from your end. And I have to tell about our audience also. They are not some ordinary people. They come with a lot of experience. And more than experience, I would say they come with a lot of passion. So I'm pretty sure the questions I have, they are going to ask even more awesome questions. And we're going to keep those questions to the end. So I have a few questions that I would like to ask you myself out of curiosity and something that I would like to know. And also the audience also would be very excited to know about. But before we can go into specific questions on the negotiation part of salary, we would like to know more about your experience into this field and your background. How have you reached here? Where did you start? And how have you reached here? A little journey, your life's journey would be very nice to start off.
So I come from Hyderabad, born and brought up in Hyderabad, come from very humble backgrounds. A lot of people don't believe this, but for the most part, I couldn't speak English as well. I used to struggle to talk. I'm an introvert. That also a lot of people don't believe. When I'm not doing this, I prefer to be by myself. So that's pretty much who I am. My work experience is only with one company, which is HSBC, the bank. And I joined the tech division, which is also something that people don't believe, that HSBC otherwise is considered to be a bank, but they have a bigger workforce than Microsoft in India. for their technical division. That sits out of Hyderabad, Pune. And they have roughly around 40,000 people that work in the tech. So I joined that. So I'm an engineer from REC Warangal. Did not do well in engineering. My final year, I had almost 16 backlogs that I had to clear. And of course, I don't want to get into the reasons. Absolutely my fault. I didn't know how else. So there is something in South India that we all do called Ayyappa Diksha, which is like a 41-day penance that you take. You denounce all worldly desires. You don't wear, your chappal. You sleep on the floor. You become spiritual. So I had to do that to align myself and clear all my subjects on time. But what that meant is I couldn't qualify to most of the campus interviews because I had backlogs. So I had a slight gap of about 5 to 6 months. Eventually got into HSBC, never looked back. I worked for them for about 11 years. I resigned in 2010 from HSBC as a vice president with HR transformation, working out of their London headquarters. And I've been an entrepreneur ever since, built a lot of tech products, sold a few. That's how I could financially retire a few years ago. Now I travel around the world talking to senior managers, HR heads about how they should do their work and get paid for it. So that's what I do. In a nutshell, that's my background, Ghaffar.
That's so beautifully put, Teja. So in short, I can say that, when everybody expects to have somebody, big come in front of us and talk, I guess we have a boy next door. Yes, who everybody would connect very easily, telling that you had 16 backlogs, and that would connect with most of them. And that gives us the right way. Okay, this is the way I need to start, and everybody can reach there where you have. So with that background of yours, I would like to put
Ghaffar,
in.
on a lighter note, I've stopped being
Yes.
a boy about 15 years ago. I'm now an uncle. But it feels nice when you say it, so thank you.
All right. And I have to say, you mentioned something that you're an introvert, and you're someone who had some challenge in speaking in English. I have to tell to the audience as well, when we met a couple of weeks ago in Bangalore, I could never judge you on that. Okay, I felt that you were one of the most free-flowing speakers I've ever met, and you had a little bit of humor in every sentence you had to say. So I have to mention that you are an amazing speaker, and I never would guess that you are an introvert in any way. Yeah. So that being said, let's jump into more on the questions that I want to ask. Okay. So the question that I would like to ask, that most of the audience also have put forward, is how are salaries decided for professionals? How does this number come into play? Okay, so this particular role, this is a salary. So how is that decided, Teja? How would you put that forward?
It's very simple, right? I mean, if you look at, or if you have families who have smaller businesses, like kirana stores or your supermarkets or any business, it all boils down to what's your unit price, right? So if I go to a client and say, I'm this big company, consulting services, if you're a Deloitte or a Accenture, right? Or I'm a startup that's building web services or SaaS platforms, and this is the product I want to give you, there's always a unit cost to it, which means how much does it cost for me to make it, and how much profit am I able to make through this? Now, large companies, of course, that's slightly more complicated as a calculation. For smaller companies, fairly easier, because I have to look at the real estate, what does it cost for offices, the food that they provide but at a very commonsensical level, it's expenses that are required to build a product and provide a service as against what I can charge the client. And obviously, they're not in the business of charity, they're in the business of profit. So they'll try to maximize their profit. And the way they can do that sometimes is to spend as little as they can to get some job done. Like how if you and I calling a carpenter home or a plumber home, right? We're not going to want to pay him what the market says, right? I mean, if the market is saying 1 lakh rupee for this wardrobe, I'm going to start at 25. But that doesn't mean I don't have the budget of 1 lakh. It just depends on how good you are, that I think you are, not what you think you are. If you are the carpenter and you value yourself at 1 lakh, do I value you at 1 lakh? What have you done to tell me that you're valued at 1 lakh? So it all depends on that. But at a very basic level, It's simple unit price economy, right? That decides how much is the ideal salary. Of course, today there is a lot of data available, which means there is a lot of comparison in terms of how much are other companies paying for a similar role and a similar experience. That also determines sometimes, because, hey, if somebody else is getting resources cheap, then I don't want to overspend on my resources. So that's how they all get together. It's almost like a syndicate, right? Where they get together and say, for these roles, this will be our salary range. But there's no real science behind it. I mean, of course, there is science behind it, but there's no real logic behind it. It all depends from company to company.
Great. I guess that was some insight for all our audience. And audience, I have to say, Teja, many of them are inspired by your short talk and how you transformed this amazing speaker from being somebody who had challenge with English. Just wanted to give you that appreciation. All right. So
Thank you.
now coming to the salary negotiation part, okay, because that's what main thing everybody would want to know here is salary negotiation as such can be intimidating, especially for whoever's early in their careers. They find it very difficult to negotiate salaries in an interview or in any other forum. So what are the common challenges people face, and how do you think they can overcome them during salary negotiations?
There are a few. And honestly, can I answer that question in 5 minutes? Probably not, but I'll try.
Take your time. Please take your time.
Obviously, because there's so many different reasons, right? I can start with one. There is enough data by LinkedIn that shows that women usually are a lot more uncomfortable talking about salaries than men. Okay, and I'm just not talking about India. This is a global figure. So like that, there are many reasons, but the basic one that I observe, especially with Indians, now that I have the experience of seeing about 45 countries, people from 45 countries, is traditionally our money mindset is very conservative, right? We are not that vocal even within our families about talking about monies. It's considered somehow, everybody wants it, but somehow talking about it is not considered a nice thing, right? We don't want to share our salaries, except when you're boasting. We don't want to share what our expenses are, how much money is there in our bank account. Somehow we've never been conditioned since childhood. Because I'm guessing most of the participants here come from middle class or low middle class families like I do, even now, right? Even today, there are certain money mindsets that I have that are so middle class. I can get that out of my system, right? So from that perspective, I think for a lot of us, talking about money becomes a big discomfort, and that sometimes is also driven by desperation, which means, especially if you're early stages of your career, if you're a fresher, just give me the job, yeah, how much ever you pay is what, in my mind, it is actually saying, because I get into the societal pressure. Oh my God, 2 years, this guy doesn't have a job. It's okay. As long as you're in forums like this, you're investing in yourself, learning new skills. Today, the world's very, very different, Ghaffar. When I take a lot of interviews every month for my companies, right? Trust me, I'm not really looking at what did this guy do the last 2 years? Was he watching Netflix and chill? All I'm worried about is I have a requirement. I have a skill that I require for this job. Does this fellow have the attitude and the skill to do this? Right? Are they good enough to explain that they have it? Are they good enough to convince me that they have it? Right? I'm usually okay with giving them a job. Now, when I ask them, what are your salary expectations? The most common response I get, first they'll look at their feet. They'll give me that smile. They're flexing in the chair because they don't know how else to talk to me, right? It's almost like sometimes, you go outside a railway station, you're talking to an auto guy and say, bhai, kitna loge? De do saab, aapki marzi. Right? Is how a lot of people talk to me when I say, what's your salary expectation? Anything, sir, anything that is right for me. No, I would want you to work for me for free. I'm a businessman, dude. I want to save money. So what I do is, if in my head, my budget is, let's say I'll give you 3 lakhs package or 6 lakhs package per year as a fresher. I start at 2.5. Because you yourself have not set a standard for me. Right? So I think that's one, the money mindset and our discomfort of talking because we're fearing a rejection of our job. Third one that I find extremely critical is And this is in my view, when I talk to my participants, more than 90% of our kids don't even know what's their worth in the market, right? By the way, not just young professionals. I know some of the senior fellows also who don't know what is their worth. But luckily today we have apps, right? There is a website called glassdoor.com where you can actually go, put your experience, look at the role you're looking at, and if you type which location you're in, which means it also measures it by the city, right? It automatically tells you what ideally other candidates in the industry are getting paid for the role that you're applying. That's a benchmark. So if you hear a number that is lesser than this, then you know there is more to negotiate, right? Are you prepared? Do you even know what your worth is? Now, if your worth is 3 lakhs and if everybody's telling you, are 6 lakh pooch, right? Like how, you have these duplicate iPhone app, watches that they sell in on the roads, right? Sir, absolutely original iPhone for 2000 rupees when you know that phone is 1.5 lakh, right? On the other side, when you know it's a fake, but he's charging you 50,000 bucks. So suddenly your impression about the other person, no matter how skilled they are, goes away. So if you're worth 3 lakhs, and if the industry is paying people like you 3 lakhs, and you're expecting 6 lakhs, ain't gonna happen, right? You're living in a la la land. So I think there are both sides. So these are the top 3 reasons. There are of course hundreds of them, but these are the top 3. One, they don't know their worth. Two, their money mindset is not in the right place. And 3, they don't know how to ask. Because remember, today we live in a world where as much as they are selecting you, you are selecting them too, right? So do you know what your worth is? So that's all I can say, Gaffer. Over to you.
Very, very beautifully put, Teja. Okay, one big reason I guess an audience must be thinking is, sir, I'm an introvert. How do I ask? But the same person on the road with an auto driver, I'm pretty sure he's negotiating well. Okay, so negotiation is definitely an art that most of us should learn. And you very well put in the 3 points that why negotiation is very important when it comes to a job. And I guess all the freshers who are listening also have got the idea why negotiation at times is important, even for a fresher or experienced. So moving on to the next question, Teja, to put your mind to think. How can individuals with diverse backgrounds navigate salary negotiations when making a career shift? So many of them are shifting careers from different backgrounds. Like now, let's take data science. We have candidates from various backgrounds. We have people who finished hotel management. We have people who finished aeronautical, people who have done MBA, and they've come into data science to look for a career. So these diverse backgrounds, how do you think they can negotiate salaries when they're making this career shift?
So I want to share actually one of my own, in fact, one of my most life transforming moments. And by the way, after this question, Gaffer, if you're okay, I do want to address that introvertedness because I'm seeing a lot of comments as well, where participants are saying, how do I handle that if I'm an introvert? So if you're okay, I would like to just spend about some time to address that also, or we can make it a part of Q&A at the end. I'll leave it to you.
No. You please take your time. We have enough time, and I'm pretty sure all of them are very excited to know about it. So you can please proceed and tell.
So this was when on my first job at HSBC, I was taken into the ATM technology, right, that the bank uses. So I was on that team when they hired me, and it was fairly a desk job because I was a fresher. They were giving me menial tasks because I was still in the learning curve, and I was pathetic at it. I just couldn't figure because I'm somebody who wanted something more. I couldn't just put attention to detail. Fairly young in the career, nobody to guide me. And I was probably a little more casual in my approach, to be honest, because I just didn't understand how serious having a job at HSBC was because I honestly didn't understand the market at that time. So about 6 or 7 months into it, my boss recommended to his super boss that I probably be moved into another team or actually be fired. So they put me on something called a performance improvement plan. They call it PIP in the corporate. That's like a 3-month notice that they're giving you literally. So the first month they'll say, this is PIP1. Why don't you do this? So if your target is X, they'll try and tell you do X minus Y this month so that you're able to perform. So about 2 PIPs got done. I still was struggling. And I kind of got the sense that I think I'm going to lose my first job. right? Not even in 3 months, they're going to fire me. So one of the days, my AVP, which is my super boss, so boss's super boss, okay, he called me to the desk and he said, Teja, there is an opportunity where you can learn something new, but eventually we're also looking at you. If you do well for the next 8 months, we also want you to be the trainer for this. Okay. Right now, I know you're struggling in this department, but perhaps this is more your alley because this will require a lot of creativity. You'll have to imagine scenarios and then write code and things like that. So my first question to him obviously was, his name is Manish Mandyan. I treat him dearly. He's like a mentor figure for my life. I said, Manish, I'm already struggling on this job, right? I'm glad you're saying this, but is this some sort of a prank? Because I'm struggling. I think you're going to fire me. Are you like pushing me to much challenging posts so you can fire me faster? Right? What he told me, Gaffer, transformed my life. And today I want to share the same thing with everyone. And in those days, right, we had everything on the floor. I'm talking about 22 years ago. This was just, if anybody's from Hyderabad, High Tech City, just one building we had in all of, High Tech City. There was nothing else. There were all rocks. And on the 13th floor was our office, which means our shredders, Xerox machines, copy, everything was around us. So right next to where I was sitting was a copier machine, a Xerox machine. So this is what Manish observed. So he said, Teja, every time a paper gets stuck or somebody doesn't know how to operate the copier, I always saw you stop what you were doing, get up and help people. That's one of the most core reasons why you should be a trainer, because you have a natural ability to help others. I could have in my life never imagined that something as silly as taking a paper out of a paper tray for someone would actually mean so much as a skill, right? I guess what I'm trying to get at is it doesn't matter what your background is. Are there transferable skills that you can apply as a data scientist? If I'm from aviation, there are so many moving parts in aviation that I need to remember, right? There are so many compliances that I have to keep in mind. There's so many regulations that the aviation industry is bound by, right? That's a transferable skill when you're becoming a data scientist. Because of that, I have an ability today to look through multiple moving parts and be able to bring that data and make something valuable out of it. That's my skill, and that's what I want to learn and implement. Because as an aviation expert, that's what I bring to the table. And there you go. So if you are coming from different backgrounds, look at the job advert and say, what have I done in my previous different professions that can be applied as a skill, which probably the other data scientists don't have, that I bring to the table. Does that make sense for you, Gaffer? So I think that is how I would look at as a diverse candidate. Are there transferable skills? And I agree. Somebody said, I'm lucky to get such a leader. It is rare these days. Okay. Which is even more a reason why you should invest on your own on programs like this. Right. I'm an advocate of that, because don't wait for great leaders to show up at work. It's very rare, like somebody said just now on the panel, which means you need to find people like that elsewhere and draw your inspiration and take them and their guidance to grow in your life. Right. So I guess to sum up everything that I spoke, look at transferable skills and confidently say, because of this, I'm fit to be a data scientist. I may not have experience as a data scientist. That is why I worked, invested in myself, did a course, right? But here's what I add that other data scientists cannot add, which is all these skills that I've learned in my previous roles. Now, when I combine them together, I think I become a deadly combination, and that's why you should hire me.
Beautifully put, Teja. I guess everybody's happy with the answer you give. So to add on whatever you just said, I would like to share an experience of mine when I was conducting an interview for a fresher in college. And when I got to know a little about him, he had 10 backlogs and he was appearing for an IT company, and I was supposed to give his prep. So I conducted a mock interview for him, and I asked him, why have you shifted? You're into electronics. Why do you want an IT job? He started off with an answer that was so special. He said, sir, I love football. I said, initially I thought, doesn't make sense. Okay, I just let him speak. He said, "Sir, I love football, and being playing football, I consider that as my goal of life, the final goal, and that ball is like my life. And the opponent standing in front of me are the backlogs I have. So I'm pretty sure one day I will cross all this and I will score the goal. So through this, I have learned by playing football that I can strategize very well. And the most important, everybody else is clearing and they are going. I have 10 backlogs. I also have the patience. And I believe for an IT professional, strategizing and patience is very important. So even though he didn't have experience, like he said, he used something that he is good at from his expertise and put forward a skill. And he went on to get the job the next day, even though he had 10 backlogs. So as you say, for the audience also, like how Teja very well put, you need to showcase the skill that you have that can be helpful in that particular role that you're applying for, and not being bothered about that you're coming from a diverse background as such. I hope I added on in the
I'll tell
right.
you what, I'll absolutely yes. In fact, I want to add on to that as well. About 7 months ago, I was interviewing somebody for a tech role in my own company because we're building one of my startups. In fact, not my company, but one of the startups I invested in. This guy blew my mind out because see, I get, especially I have a bias for people who have backlogs because I am not any professor myself, right? I also struggled with great difficulty. I crawled my way to the finish line in engineering, right? So I saw this one fellow who had about 7 or 8 backlogs. Whoever trained this fellow did a fabulous job. Okay. Obviously, it was a well prepared answer, but I love that response. And I think some of them in the group can use it. So I asked him, obviously, I think his name was Vikas or something. Because, yeah, you have 7 or 8 backlogs, how do I expect you to take jobs seriously? Because you don't seem like somebody committed to your career. I just said, sir, I agree. I made mistakes. I got carried away in my studies. But how I look at it, sir, is how I come out of challenges, right? So it's not about how many backlogs I had. What I take pride in is the fact that I finished all of them on time and I'm standing or sitting in front of you today. That I think is my strength, sir. That you throw me anything, I'll figure out a way and I'll come on top. That was it. I was bought, if you know what I'm saying. Of
Amazing.
course, he had the skills. He passed the other tests, other evaluations. But the point is, if you can't see positivity about your own life, how can you expect me to see it here? मैं क्या बुआ का लड़का हूँ? What am I to you, right? If you are not confident about yourself, how can I be confident of you? That's the logic.
Absolutely. That's beautifully said. I guess that these real-time scenarios are going to make a lot of difference for our audience as well. So thank you for sharing that, Teja. So with that, let me move on to the next question I have for you. And guys, on the audience, I know you're asking a lot of questions. Definitely all your questions will be, I'm noting down your questions. I will ask that to Teja. But we have a list of questions already made, and we'll finish this and definitely we move into your questions. So be a little patient. All right. Thank you. So the next question I have for you, Teja, is what are some common challenges people face and how they can overcome them during salary negotiations? What do you think these challenges that people will normally face, on a general level, and how do you think they can overcome this?
So I already discussed about 3, right, in terms of the challenges that people face, especially during salary negotiations. Sometimes one of the other challenges I think people have is they don't know the process of negotiating salaries, right? They don't know if it is okay to ask. They don't know if there is some strategy. So you got to learn that process. And I'm not somebody who believes in big time. See, like I said, for me, if somebody ever were to write a book about me, right, or if I become so proud of myself that I'll write a book on myself, I'll call it Jugad, right? Because I've always figured out shortcuts to do things. Because I didn't have the exposure growing up. I couldn't afford a lot of things that perhaps some of the other students could, right? Which means I always had to figure things out, like Jugad. Okay. So for me, the simple thing is, can you figure out a process in way, can you be taught that process? Like, for example, there's always a question that is asked by HR, even by formality, to say, hey, what's your salary expectation? How you respond to that question also determines a tone of how much salary they will actually eventually give you, right? So how confident are you when you talk about it, even with 0 years of experience, right? So again, it goes back to the top 3 points that I said. Are you aware of your worth? Do you know what a fresher for this role, since you said data scientist, what's the payment for a data scientist who with zero experience in data science? Or I'm a fresher, I have no experience, and I still want to be a data scientist. Do you know what the market value is? So to first go ahead and say, you know what, thank you for asking that question. I know that usually this is the average salary that is paid in the market. However, I also know that your company is known to be encouraging freshers, and you have a great work culture. And I know there are a lot of other benefits also that your company provides. So I'm more than happy to negotiate, but at a minimum, I'm really, really excited to work at the market price. So you're ensuring that they're not cutting you short than what others are getting paid, right?
Beautiful.
And sometimes it is just not the hard cash that you're talking about. Are they giving you insurance? Is your family and parents protected in it? Because I'll tell you, one of the greatest joys of my life was to go and give my parents that insurance card that they gave me on my first job and say, you know what, this is covered for you also, which means all we have to do if we have to unfortunately go and get admitted in a hospital is show my ID card, right? That is a fascinating feeling sometimes, especially if you're a fresher. So it also depends on a lot of other things that you're getting. What are the benefits? Are they giving you food? Is there a cab, right? Are there, opportunities? Is there an opportunity to go on site? Because boss, for that, I'll work for 2000 less, yeah, if required. In my first ever job or my first ever venture as a data scientist, I'm being sent to Germany or US to work on a project. I don't mind working for, some amount of thousands less, yeah. Because the moment I go there and I have that visa on my passport, now on my CV, I'm able to write I'm an international resource. That is invaluable. Now for that, I won't do Chandigiri and say, no, 10,000 aur de do yaar. Your ticket price will only be 50,000 bucks, yeah, that they're giving you for free for a trip. So it all depends on holistically looking at that opportunity, right? So that's how ideally you should be, and that's where most people have a challenge because they don't spend enough time doing this research, right? Can you talk to some of the existing employees? Can you go on LinkedIn, find somebody who's 6-7 months in the company, talk to them? Go to Glassdoor. Somebody asked, what's that site? Glass, like a glass, door, like a door, right? Glassdoor.com. That can give you reviews about that company. What salaries do they give, right? And all of that. It's a great question on the platform. We'll cover that in Q&A, I think, about previous salary and current salary. How do we? So, but overall, for me, I stick with those 3 challenges here. How much aware are you of your market value? Can you learn the skill of asking those questions? There's a process. Can you learn that? And that's about it. Go ahead. Over to you.
Wonderful. So basically, widen your research is what Teja is trying to say. And I guess that was amazing input for most of the candidates here. And the audience has one question that kept repeating. Now I'm going to take some questions from the audience as well, Teja. So one question often asked on this was, how would I negotiate salary if I have, or if I've had a career gap? So how does the negotiation work then?
So I have a lot of HRs hate me because when they call me for their keynote speeches, this is what I'm telling them, right? Unless you are their mother-in-law, father-in-law, father or mother, why they have a gap is none of anybody's business. However, they do ask that question to check what you are really doing. Because they are more, see, please understand, every question that they ask has a DNA. There's a reason behind it. The reason why they're asking that question is they want to ensure that you're somebody who's regular, who's consistent, right? That's the only reason why they ask that question. Why do you have a salary gap? Or sorry, why do you have a career gap? Now, obviously, you have your own reasons why, there's been a gap. The good news is companies have become more and more lenient towards career gap because in the name of diversity and inclusion, they don't want anybody to lose out on an opportunity because you've had a gap. Because There were times when my first two startups failed that I wanted to go back and join a company, right? Now, if that became against me, it would be idiotic of that company if I did apply. You're now getting somebody who tried to be an entrepreneur, do everything on his own, come back and join you, which means I have a lot more experience than an average guy with my experience working for a corporate, because I have a holistic view of finance, advertisements, marketing, building products, tech. So again, it all depends on how I'm presenting my skills to them to say, yes, I do have a gap. However, if I continue to work for various reasons, I did not. But if I continue to work, even at a 10% inflation every month, this is ideally what my salary should have been. And with market correction and what I could have achieved in these 4 years, I'm sure it would have been at least 50% more than what my previous salary was. However, I understand it is difficult for you to trust me on that. So I'll be happy at least with a 33% hike.
Beautiful. Wow. That is a whole new perspective, Teja. That's some information for me as well. Very nicely put. So there's one question kept repeating as you were talking about gap. So if the gap is 1 or 2 years, it's fine. We can do this. What if I have a gap of more than 5 years? Does it still remain the same?
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, what you do with your career is absolutely private and personal to you. As HR, I'm only worried about, have you progressed in those 5 years? Have you learned something? Because if you lose touch, see, please understand this, unless you're a doctor or some NASA scientist where you need to renew your license every year, right? Once you're a sales guy for life, boss. If you learned a skill once, it's there. You probably need slightly more practice, but it's there, right? If you learn to drive a car and you don't drive for 10 years, you can't drive now, is it? You'll be a little rusty, right? So as HR, I am worried about, why did you have this gap? Have you learned it? Or is your knowledge 5 years old? So all I have to do is be aware of that and give that as an answer. When they say, so I'm curious, why this gap, right? Whatever reason, that if you can share it. If it's personal, due to some personal emergencies, unfortunately, I had to take a break, right? But because I'm a lifelong learner, this is what I did through these 5 years. I kept in touch. I was a part of communities. I invested in a lot of courses. I worked on myself. I am abrupt with, I'm absolutely know what is the current market scenario and how things are working. What I don't have, though, is the work experience. But in terms of the knowledge, these are all the things that I've done over the last few years. In fact, as a consultant, I've helped out a few people. So I absolutely know what is happening. I now just need an opportunity to come back and prove and put all that to use, right? So take pride in that gap. Yeah, this is not like a college, right? Oh, +2, we did it for 5 years, huh? Right? It only takes 2 years, no, for others. This is not like that. This is a job. It's your professional career. It doesn't matter. Take pride in that gap and say, I've learned, dude, this is what I've done. I wanted to explore other things. Unfortunately, I learned a lot of things. I couldn't make money. So now, to keep up with my financial stability, I want to come back and join a job. And I've learned my lessons. I think I'm made to be working for a company than be on my own. So here I am. Be proud of it. As simple as that.
Beautiful answer. So to add on to that, something that I keep telling every learner here who have attended my sessions, that every question asked in an interview is not to find out what you're answering, but rather how you're answering it. Yes. So whatever you said, I guess, kind of summed up that. So I would use that in my sessions as well. Thank you so much for that point, Teja. Now, a few more questions that came. Is age going to be any kind of a barrier when it comes to salary negotiation? They have
many
more than the normal freshers, but they do not have any improve in their salary. They're still on the basic salary, but they are a little older. Is that going to affect salary negotiation?
In fact, if I'm taking, if I'm confident as a person, I'll use that to my advantage with the next company, right? Without really talking bad about the previous company, right? I would say, look, I've had a lot of learning experiences in that company. The culture there is brilliant, and I think they've given me a lot of opportunities. Unfortunately, with the increasing expenses around, while I understand the company's scenario and situation, somewhere I also believe that I have to be compensated enough for that, for the work, because I'm somebody who brings in a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment. And these are my achievements. This is what I achieved for them. So at some point of time, I now also want to be compensated for it, because I think my learning phase is over. I'm now ready for my growth phase. So while it is a difficult decision for me to leave that organization, I think for my family stability and what I can provide for my family, I think it is important for me to also be compensated for it. And which is why I'm hoping I would have that in this organization. So, absolutely, yes. If you do not have a great salary, if you're below the market, make that your actual reason for why you're looking at this company. So you're setting that expectations, right? This one, they already know, acha, acha, ye base rate pe nahi aayega. So this guy's already very subtly told me that boss, paisa bhi chahiye isko. So I think that's important, if you ask me.
Very nice. Very nice. You're giving us very good perspectives of how to give the answer. And I guess on that note, there is someone who's asked a question I believe they would have encountered in an interview. So I'm going to put it forward as an interview question. How would you answer this, Teja? The thing is, most of our audience here have prepared for government exams, UPSC exams for a long time. And because they could not clear that, is one, they found out there's an emerging technology called data science, and we'll take it up, and they finish this, and most of them are in the placement pool. So if that question is put up, like, you didn't get successful after 5 years of preparation for a government, how do you see yourself successful as a data analyst or a data scientist? If they're going to compare,
yeah, absolutely, yes, they will, right? Not because they want to, because they're testing you.
Yes.
Right. So please understand, HR also are our own humans only, right? They don't take sadistic pleasure to put you on the spot. Right. The point is, there is a reason why they ask every question. They are only interested to know, okay, you will work here for 2 years. If you're not happy, you'll quit this also. Right. Is probably what they're thinking. Or what did you do in this 5 years, was for a exam. You didn't get through that. Now suddenly you have a new fascination, which is data science. How far will you go in this field? Right? Is probably how I'll understand that question. So it's very, very simple. Again, transferable skills. Sir, I know that I had a vision, I had a dream that I wanted to get that UPSC or whatever job. I worked hard for it. I sacrificed my career for it. That's how committed I am when I fix myself on something. Right? So I was committed to my goals, but at some point of time, I have to get practical. For whatever fortunate or unfortunate reasons, I could not crack it. Now was the time for me to relook at my career path, redo my plans and goals, and look at, if not this, what other profession will I excel at? Now, based on my skills and my ability for attention to detail, because clearing a government exam is not easy. It requires attention to detail. It requires analytical skills. It requires logical thinking, which is why I think I'll also be a great data scientist, because I already have 5 years experience of practicing those skills.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
So that's how I would look at. Again, transferable skills. Be proud of what you did. Don't feel sorry. How many people in your own classmates would sacrifice 5 years of their life for one dream? Right? Don't make the result the hero or the villain of your story. Make the process, the effort, the hero and the villain of your story.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you so much, Teja. All your answers, gives us a lot of information for the audience as well as to how they should take up these questions. Because on the same lines of this question that was asked, many of them consider, definitely an audience as well, that failure is something very negative. They think that, okay, I've gone through failure in my life. 5 years I prepared, I didn't get through, so I'm a failure. So when somebody is going to ask me a question somewhere on those lines, I lose my confidence. So I'd like to say, please take up whatever Teja said. You need to convert even those challenges into a positive and put it forward. So I'd like to say one of the interviews where I had a candidate who came after failing around 5 interviews. He had appeared for so many things. When I asked him, how many interviews have you applied for and how many were successful, he said, last 5 interviews I failed. So then he did not feel nervous or something to say, then okay, you failed five. What confidence do you have in this that you'll get a job? And after you get a job, your failures are not going to affect you. He went on to say, sir, consider there was a person who came to you. First interview, he got selected. He's never undergone failure. You give him a project and he fails in that project. He wouldn't know how to handle it. You give me that same project, and if I fail, I will know how to handle that and come over it. So even failure, as you say, a cliche statement maybe, but I feel it is one of the best way to say at this moment is failure is definitely a stepping stone. And we need to use it as stepping stone and come forward and put that in the right words. That's the most important part. Yeah. So thank you so much for that, Teja. So with that, I would like to go to our next
There's a
question.
couple of questions that caught my attention, Gaffer, and I want to address that. There's somebody who said there are some HRs who say, you know what, if you this is the salary that we can offer, if you can't take it, we reject you. Again, it depends on how they say it. If they're actually saying it, please don't even go anywhere near to that company, because tomorrow they'll say, for all that you worked, this is the peanuts will pay you as a hike, or a salary hike next year. Take it or leave, right? Please be clear. Once you accept that job offer, you will be dedicating the rest of your life away from your family on that. But I have a but to this. If it's the only job offer you have, take it. Because, and especially if you're a fresher, because in this market, getting a job is a big deal. And if you do have it, right, the first offer that you get, accept and keep it, apply elsewhere. If you have other offers, of course, your body language, your focus will be different. But the first job offer, even if they're saying will reject you if you don't accept it, just ask, what is the status of salary revisions in your company? How frequently do you do it? Is it yearly? Is it based on performance? Is it based on market? Right? Take it. Get your experience. You're no longer a fresher. You are now, even if you work for 1 year, you are now an experienced data scientist, for example. Right?
Yes.
And then you can make up for it in the next company. So please be also aware of the market and the future. Don't be so hell-bent that, you know what, and this is where movies like Three Idiots have spoiled us, right? I'll reject. Who are you to reject me? I'll reject you, right? Sounds very great when you're sitting with friends and boasting. It's harmful for your career. At this stage, if you do not have any other offer letter, there's nobody who's shown you interest to hire you. These guys have at least shown you to, interest. They've given you the respect to at least offer something to you. Our culture says, please accept it with both hands. Doesn't matter, because your bigger battle here is now, from starting today, I'm no longer a data scientist with 0 years of experience. I am now a data scientist with a job. Spend 1 year, move on to a much bigger responsibility in another company. What you need right now is a showcase platform, right? So I wanted to answer that. And then somebody said, I have 15 years of operations experience. Now suddenly I'm becoming a data scientist. How? Again, same response like 5 years of UPSC, right? Sir, as an operations person, I know a lot of aspects of operations. Now, in this data-driven world, I'm curious to see how I can use that experience and make data talk and enable operations to be more effective. And that's what I'm passionate about now. And that's why I think with my experience, I will add something to this that nobody else can, because I know the entire cycle of the business. And now I have the power of data science. I can actually be a valuable resource for you.
Yes, beautiful. And to add on to that, I guess data science is one field where if you come from any stream, you have something to add on to that. Yeah. So
absolutely,
that's a big advantage, especially in the data science field. So another question, very interesting question. This many of them would be curious to know the answer for. Most companies ask for your previous salary. This is how the flow of the questions go. So how much was your previous salary? And they say, mention, okay, this 3.5 LPA. So how much do you expect now? So the negotiation now comes on the previous salary and not on the skill that they have. So how do you kind of articulate this? That my expectation is not on the previous salary, but the skills that I have gotten through now.
Again, same thing. What's your market value? Not what your current company is paying you. What's your market value, right? If that disparity is quite a lot, That is exactly the reason why I'm moving on from that company. Great company, lot of learnings. Never speak ill about your previous company, right? Or your previous boss. Great company, lot of learnings. Unfortunately, they couldn't correct my salary to the market requirement. But by the way, this is where your selling skills are important, especially when companies are basing it on your previous salary and saying, "Arey yaar, तेरे को वहां तो 3.5, now you want 10 here. Huh? No, 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 we'll give you 20% of that." And that is where you need to become a salesperson to say, see, one of the reasons I want you to appreciate and acknowledge that one of the main reasons that I'm moving on from that company, in spite of that being a great company, is compensation. Because here's what I added as a value to them, and then talk about your your achievements. This is what I brought to the table. These are the number of things that I did, whatever that is, your achievements. And in spite of that, if I were to do the same thing in your organization, you would have already been paying me 10 lakhs, right?
Yes.
And that is exactly why I'm sitting here in front of you, because I'm in the hope that at least this organization will value that contribution, right? So now they are talking from 3.5, you are starting at 10, you'll at least get 6.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is still their budget, by the way. So they are not stretching. They try to do fish market sometimes because, look, it's not. Please understand how this happens, right? When I tell my teams to go hire, I ask my operations manager, who do we need to hire? Sir, we need a digital marketing specialist. अच्छा, कितना salary? Sir, आ जाएंगे 4-5 lakhs per annum में junior आ जाएगा. So in my head, I've already assigned 6 lakhs to this role when I approve it. Now, what this fellow in my HR does know, he wants some brownie points for his appraisal so that he can come and tell me, sir, I saved 1 lakh for you, sir. I got this, I squeezed him, I got him cheap for 5 lakhs. And he's thinking, now give me that 1 lakh difference as my bonus, is what he's expecting. So I tell my people, boss, if it's a good candidate, please don't do fish market. So today you will see a lot many companies are happy to give you what the market value is, only if you're able to sell properly why you deserve that. So that should be a part of your interview preparation.
Yes.
Right? You already know that they'll start from 3.5. So what are you doing to prepare to mitigate that? So right from start, you subtly put that in your responses and like in your introduction, tell me something about yourself. I'm a passionate resource. I am a data scientist. This is what I've been doing for my previous company. I'm somebody who gives in 100%, more than 100% in what I do. Sometimes that also works to my disadvantage because I don't know what's the right compensation to ask for sometimes. And that's the result of why I'm here. Because I now am looking for a company that also values not just my commitment, but also reflects that in how much I get paid. Right? That's my tell me something about yourself. So I'm already setting the tone in the interview कि boss, तो पैसे के वहाँ कंजूसी मत करना please मेरे साथ. So that's how you do it. Yeah.
Beautifully put. So in short, I guess what Teja's trying to say is 2 things you need is you need the right words, articulate your words well, and know about yourself. A very important thing I keep telling the learners here is to know about themselves. Many of them don't take time to figure out what is my achievement, where am I good at, how do I put this forward, and that kind of homework is very much needed in an interview, because most of them misunderstand an interview to be a question and answer round. Question पूछा तो answer दे दिया, बस हो गया. But they don't take the effort to know that every question asked in an HR interview, whether tell me about yourself or why do you have a career gap, what is your salary that you want, what's your strength, your weakness, in the end is just one question, and that is, who are you? I'm just asking, who are you in different perspectives? And so the biggest
I have a slightly different perspective to that, Gaffer, just to add on to that. Instead of who are you, right? What they're asking. So the way I train people who come to my courses and what I do is every question that's asked to you in your interview, attach the word and why should I hire you to it in your head when you're responding. Right? What was the most challenging situation you ever faced in your life? And why should I hire you for that? Right? Yes. So now your response should be to answer that.
Yes.
Right? So who are you for sure in the start, but after that it comes, and then why should I hire you?
Beautifully said. Makes sense. Even a question like, what is your hobby? and in the back when you say, why should I hire you, he relates his hobby to, a skill that he can portray. Very beautifully said, Teja. Yes, that's one
So
takeaway. That's for me as well. Yeah. So
the last one, I think somebody's just reminded, Anu reminded, I think. We were to talk about introvert, excuse me, right?
yes.
So here's the first thing. 98% of lecturers and professors in colleges have never worked in a corporate company. Okay. That is a reality, which means they do not know how to guide students. So the easiest thing for them to say is become an extrovert. Okay. Most of them don't know. In fact, most of the coaches and trainers, the so-called coaches and trainers in the market, have never gone beyond mid-level management in their own companies. Now they're telling people how they can make them CEOs. Okay. Which is not bad, but I'm saying the perspective is very different. I'll give you an example. Have you ever heard a Chinese speak in English? They have their own accent and they're proud of it. Have you ever seen a French national speak in English? They're terrible accents and they're proud of it. US, UK, Australia, they spoil English with their accents. Russian, you need to put a gun on their head for them to talk in English in the first place. They'll say, get an interpreter and translate. I'll only speak in Russian. The reason why I'm saying that is the only people on planet Earth who are judging you by your English are other Indians. Once you cross this country, nobody cares. In fact, everybody knows English is not our first language. Right? So all of this stems out of some idiot thinking, what feedback should I give? Because I myself don't know how to evaluate you. So I'll say, you learn English? No. You communicate well? No. Boss, the communication skill required for an air hostess, to a call center representative, to an IT guy, to a data scientist are very different. Yeah. A data scientist speaks through words, information, graphics, and data.
Yes.
You don't necessarily talk and give speeches like Modi ji. Right? So the level of communication that are required are limited to what your role is that you're getting into, which means you need to be smart to say, because I researched this, in across corporate, there are only 100 words that people most commonly use. It's on YouTube for free. Right? Can you, in the next 3 months, learn those 100 words? You're already sorted. There are only 250 conversations that ever happen in corporate. Voting, what happens in a meeting, how do you respond? Just 250 are. Your biggest dream of that dream career, that job, that salary, you are making it responsible for something you can learn in 2 months. What is this? Yeah. Getting what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter if you're an introvert. This is what I've learned in life. But in fact, I'm writing a book and I have a quote that I do not change who you are with anybody in this world. You shouldn't change who you are. Change how you are with everybody. Which means if I'm attending an interview, can I create my own process? If I'm an introvert, I already know that it could be slightly difficult for me to answer that question or to talk freely. Which means I will collect 50 questions based on the job advert. The job advert has the secret question paper, by the way. An ideal candidate should have, and they'll list 6-7 points. The questions that they'll ask you in the interview are going to be around those 7 in one way or the other. So now I do delivery prep. Interview prep, delivery prep are 2 different things. What is an interview prep? In my head, I'm thinking this way I will say that, I will say this. In that moment, it won't come out the same way. Because what is here, by the time it gets translated and comes out, will be very different for introverts. I'm saying this as an introvert. So what I used to do in my initial days of my career, I will write down those 15 questions, I'll type out my responses, and I stand in front of a mirror and do a delivery prep. 4 times I'll read, 4th, 5th time, my target is without this paper, how can I sound more genuine and talk without the paper in free words? Delivery prep. Right? I train this to coaches and trainers also, presenters also, because what you prepare of PPTs is content prep. How you deliver it, that practice is delivery prep. Do that. That's the only thing for introverts. Extroverts are slightly at advantage because it comes naturally. The only difference between extrovert and introvert is that I realized they can speak more freely. We struggle. Fill that gap with preparation. That's all it is.
Content prep and delivery prep. Two words, I guess most of them will take back from today. Thank you so much, Teja. So to add on to that, most of us are going, audience here also, are going towards speaking perfect English. Many of them say that when they say I have bad communication skills, they mean that I cannot talk English perfectly. But I would like to say, instead of looking at perfect English, we need to start looking at speaking boldly. That is where the difference comes. And
Boss, the person on the other side also is Indian only,
yes.
Yes or no? Right?
Yeah.
So if you want to be Shashi Tharoor, sure. In nature, there are no right angles. You look at any naturally occurring object, it's always crooked. Okay? Only man-made objects are perfect because we have this crazy, inclination towards perfectionism. Everybody wants their life to be perfect except when they go to give an ECG. That's where they don't want a straight line. Because a straight line in an ECG report means death.
That's very well put.
Right? It always is graph, right? It's ups and downs. So what you need to do is speak normal English. Your accents don't matter. I have tons of students that attended my courses who have heavy Bihari accents when they speak, right? They are now presidents and vice presidents in companies. It doesn't matter here. It is all about practicing those 250 phrases. In a meeting, if I have to say, I want to put my point across, what are the 3-4 options I have? Learn that. Grammar baad mein aayega. That's an aspiration for 2 years. The next 3 months before the job, what can I do? Like I'm in Bangalore now, I'm a Telugu, I don't know Kannada, but I manage my conversations with auto guys. I manage my conversations everywhere. Why? I only learned those 15 sentences. For me, that's functional. So now when I have a Blinkit delivery or courier guy talking to me in Kannada, I exactly know the most possible conversations. Where are you? I have to ask. Sir, really, sir. Okay. I need to tell where my house is. Sir, orange color gadi park ide nodi, which means you see there is a orange color car parked. Now, if you respond, I don't know what to say. But these 5-6 sentences I know. And 90% of the time, they think I'm a Kannadiga now. Jugad. Right? I can sit and learn Kannada grammar, Kannada verbs, all of that, or I can figure out what can get me my job done. That's what all of them need. Jugad.
Definitely. So I guess Teja, I can't imagine how 1 hour went past, and it's been a wonderful conversation. I guess it was more than just a talk. I would say it was a conversation. You were answering questions from the audience, you're answering some questions that I asked, and most of the answers that you gave, I don't know, no audience how much they took it. I've taken it personally. Thank you so much for your time. And overall, in the end, okay, as the final, the cherry on top, what would you like to tell our audience at the end of this session, and what would you ask them to look forward to in their very fresh career life in data science? Something that you'd like to tell at the end.
Somebody asked Newton this, right? Or Einstein, I think. Somebody asked Einstein this. How do you define insanity? Okay. And Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing every day and expecting different results. If you have a goal, reverse engineer, right? If this is the job I need to get at this package, reverse engineer, work backwards, right? And figure out the jugaad. Reach out to mentors, talk to people, because you cannot do it alone. Your career, you cannot do it alone without support. Absolutely. The day you put your ego aside and do this, growth will happen in no time. That's all I can say.
Beautiful, Teja. I guess that's a lot of thing for me to take back, for the audience to take back. And so wonderful audience. First, before I can thank Teja, I want to thank you guys. You've been awesome with so much patience, listening to everything we spoke and the questions that you asked. Very valid questions. I hope most of your questions we could answer. A few we could not, but that's okay. The most of the answers that he gave covered your questions as well. Now coming, Teja, thank you so much for your time. I know you have a busy schedule, yet you took some time off for us to spend this Friday evening. I'm pretty sure that whatever you spoke is going to be a boost for us for the next 2 days. The weekend is going to be awesome. So with this, I want to thank you once again and wish you a very happy weekend. And I want to wish each and every candidate who attended this OdinTalk a very, very, very happy weekend. And most important, guys, now you know what to do. Go back to your LMS and give your feedback for this session so we can bring awesome speakers like Teja more and more every week for you. Okay, with this, I want to wish all of you a very good night. A very good night to you as well, Teja. Thank you.
And Gaffer, if they have more questions, do send me an email. I'll try to answer it in text that we can get back at them as well. So more than happy.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Teja. Thank you, everyone. Happy night and take care.